Thanks, Preston. I would like to call the regular meeting of the Ridgway County Council order and ask for a roll call, please.
Councilor Beck,
Here.
Raleigh,
Present.
Brambley,
Here.
Lakin, here. Schuyler,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer,
Here.
and Mayor Clark.
Here. Thanks for that. Do we have any additions or deletions to or from the agenda?
I think from staff.
Anything from the council? All right, and none. That brings us to adoption consent calendar. Is there anything on there anybody wants to pull off to do separately? If not, we have a motion to approve. So motion is second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilor Beck.
Aye.
Raleigh,
Aye.
Brambley,
Aye.
Lakin, Schuyler,
Aye.
and Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. I believe Pro Tem made the motion and that second, just for the record. That brings us to public comments. And this is established time on the agenda for the public to address council for anything that's not otherwise on the agenda. I believe there might be one person in the audience on Zoom. She may not have gotten on here because she didn't think it was going to come up this quickly. You see Robin Cascade get on? She called me earlier today.
Oh, she did. Okay. I'll let you know if I see her pop on.
Okay, thanks.
Mayor.
Yes? Oh.
Yeah.
Come on up.
Hi, John. Joyce Lundman. I heard you had a brief time between your minutes and the rest of the meeting.
That's
to speak up.
what we're on right now. You want to come up to the podium?
Oh,
for
can I
us?
just do it here? You won't
Well,
see me.
can
I'm gonna
everybody
be here,
online?
John. I don't want to get up on.
Okay, I'm not sure if the people online can hear you.
Oh, I'll talk loud. How's that?
Okay,
Okay. This is a follow-up. I've become a downtown resident for about a month. And I'm on the corner of Mary and Clinton. And since I've been here, I was amazed at the entry for the project that goes down Mary 2 blocks, over Charles a block, and then back up to their project. They're a block off of Sherman. Now, I don't know the details, and I'm sure you have a lot of reasons why. But these trucks are going by my house every day, and the dust from them, I can get by any guy in town that owns the biggest truck that he drives, and there's no dust. But when a truck with 14 or whatever they have wheels on them, they look like Pigpen out of Charlie Brown. I mean, they're just in a bubble of dust as they go up the street. Well, this is happening all the time. And then what was the corker was one morning I get up and I look across my yard and there's a truck sitting there that half a block long, loaded, of course, with stuff. And a truck, a large, not just a lift, but a big lift, coming down the street. They're going to unload that truck for the project. I can't understand why the bulk of everything has to happen right on Mary and right on Charles to get to that project. And I've talked to a lot of neighbors who spent an enormously uncomfortable time when the streets were put in. And you know, I was totally unaware of this because I was running a restaurant and I had the good luck of living up in Log Hill when all that was going on. And hardly anything they pleaded to have done, nobody seemed satisfied. And one advantage you have is people don't like to go to meetings. No one wants to come here and bitch, show up, whatever, even listen, because things are so lengthy anymore. You got to go through such stages just to talk to the right person. I talked to Mike Gill. He was very nice to me. He listened to what I had to say. I talked to Brian. And that guy unloading the truck was even turning around in my driveway. Not far in, it was only about 3 feet coming into my driveway. The tires on these things are this big around. What I'm getting at, you know, I told those guys, if this was a project that was gonna be over in a month, I wouldn't open my mouth. And I know that none of the other people want to come to meetings and they want to complain, but I don't understand why one little portion of town gets all the attention. Why do we get all the trucks, all the dust, all the noise? I mean, the noise won't be, I mean, that's a project, that's a year, what? Am I being long on a year? Maybe I'm short on a year. It's a big project. So I think somebody ought to take something into consideration here. And you know what? I'm lucky. I have a little house I bought from Bob and Darlene Mann that's made out of stone. So I'm kind of protected from the noise. But you guys, you've got good residents that have lived in this town forever. And they came here to have a home and have their kids in school. And now every postage stamp of lots you've got or land available. The people coming in, they want to squeeze in every possible buck they can get out of it. They aren't going to live here. I went to a meeting on the project on Lydell. I mean, they want to put 10 condos on a half acre. I mean, that seems insane. And yet they're in discussion. We'll be lucky if we get it down to 10. And I'm going to participate in town. I never could vote in town. I never had a residence here. So I wasn't, sorry, but I wasn't for the streets. I liked the mountain community we had. Well,
Things are changing.
they are, oh, I know that, John. I've lived in more changes than you ever lived in. I've seen it happen in
Joyce,
every
I
town.
empathize with
I'm
your
not,
comments.
I don't want to get
Totally.
into it with you. I just want to tell you what I have to say.
Well,
But there's a lot of nice people on that end of town. And I don't think they should have to put up with the bulk of all this stuff. It's just not fair. Thank you for listening.
okay, thanks, Joyce. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Take a stab at the public comment. See anybody with their hand up online? All right, so we'll move on to policy matters. First, item number 6, review of memorandum of understanding between Marion County and the town of Ridgway regarding 2022 operational funding requests. I see at least one commissioner and county administrator here, so welcome. And Preston, you want to kick this off?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. And so each year the town enters into a memorandum of understanding with the county regarding operational funding requests, road and bridge apportionment from the county to the town, and goals for the next fiscal year. As specified in the MOU for the 2021 fiscal year, the town and county agreed to get together in September of 2021, which is why we're here tonight, to review the MOU, and reconsider for the next budget year, the 2022 budget year. Connie was kind enough to put together a draft of the MOU for 2022. She sent it to me a couple weeks back. I provided some edits and comments, and the resulting draft is in your packet before you, with what I would call minimal changes from 2021 to 2022. And I see Connie and Commissioner Paget here with us. I don't know if anyone else is joining online, but thank you for being here. They're here to participate in the discussion.
All right, so do you guys have anything you want to add to what we've got in front of us?
I guess I was just, not sure if I heard it right, but on number 2, the road and bridge apportionment is actually from the county to the town. At least that's how it reads on the page. I think that's the intention.
Right, and that shows as TBD on the draft in 2020.
Okay. with
Yeah, hopefully, sorry. So
the version that we have, Connie and I think Preston worked out, maybe even as late as yesterday, it's $30,000, $30,216.38.
Okay, great. And you are correct, that is from the county to the town. Anything else? Anything the council wants to bring up?
It's actually, it says two town candidates.
Right.
Still
I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense that our 2022 MOU would be substantially the same, since so much energy went towards COVID in 2020 and 2021. That a lot of our goals have remained the same.
Yeah, I agree. There's a new item under the county desires, continued limited use of the non-potable water for your county fairgrounds facility. I know that there was some issues earlier with the tap for that being locked without realizing that the county needed access to that at their convenience. And I don't know if you guys talked about anything more than this kind of general approach to it.
No, I think, so that happened about, I don't know, I want to say a month ago, Terry, I think. And we were coming right up on the Labor Day events. And so we certainly did not want to put the county in a bind, that Aaron Stadelman or the fairgrounds in a bind. So we opened that back up, and that's, I think that revolved just around a misunderstanding and a miscommunication. The county, it seems, has been using that non-potable water spigot for a lengthy period of time. Limited quantities, of course, but again, it wasn't on my radar that the county had been doing it, and same goes for some members of Public Works. So it had been locked with the rest of them, but it was subsequently unlocked, and this item was added to the 2022 MOU for you all to consider. So I think it's completely appropriate for you all to consider that.
Okay, I guess the only thing I would like to make sure was understood is that with water being of a increasingly concerning nature, drought, questions on where our water is going to be coming from long term, just the very limited use of that, and paying attention to it. It's great that it's non-potable, it's not going through the treatment, but it's still a limited resource. So anything you guys can do to
So gentlemen, this came up from Aaron last month.
Yeah.
There was some indication that non-county use was being, or people were coming in and washing their jeeps or whatever. One of the suggestions that Aaron had was that you put a dual lock on it to where the fairgrounds can get access to it through a lock, and we can keep it locked away from the general public. So I don't know if that was discussed any further.
Yeah, that definitely was thrown out there. It's a neat idea, something we can certainly look into. And just to be clear, it wasn't that specific spigot we were worried about. We caught in that others were maybe helping themselves to other spigots around town. So that was the impetus for putting the locks on there. But yeah, I don't remember who plugged that idea, but that's certainly something we can look into with Aaron.
John, when we had our read of Bateman, and Aaron was involved in the discussion around Heritage Park, she seems very aware of the need for keeping water usage at an appropriate level. So I think, in a future MOU, if we need to address that and make it more specific, we can, but I'm really comfortable with where we are now.
Okay, I just thought it'd be fair mentioning. I need to remind everybody to either speak up or get closer to your microphone just so people online can hear. No, I'm not overly concerned. I just thought it'd be worth mentioning. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I just want to say, it's my understanding that the county is extremely prudent with that particular tap. There may be limited livestock use from time to time, but I do want to remind you that it is an evacuation location. Should there be a wildfire in the Log Hill Fire Protection District especially, it does seem like if there needs to be a lock, it needs to be a dual lock, because we don't know when there's going to be an emergency. There could even be an emergency on Highway 550, and it would be very unfortunate to have to locate somebody to unlock it,
Absolutely.
even for a vehicle fire at the traffic light. So just please know that we are being extremely prudent and judicious. We have xeriscaping at the fairgrounds on a very limited patch of ground around the facility. I don't even know if they use that water for that. I'm just trying that out.
Right.
But the evacuation piece and the emergency piece is really important to remember as well.
Yep. No, very, very good point. My understanding is the main use of that particular tap is for dust control on the arena and the racetrack.
That's correct.
Travelers Association is using it and stuff, and I know that's, you know, please don't take my comments the wrong way. It's just a reminder that we all need to be conscious of that. And when I requested him, said, I don't think we necessarily need to lock that particular tap at all, but if we do, we'll make sure it's done in a way that you guys have adequate access to a key as well.
I think just especially during the fair and rodeo, with the equestrian events, it helps keep the dust down, and Erin's very good about it. And I think if you did have a lock on it, that's fine. She can find as long as she had access to it when she needed it. So.
Certainly the fire trucks all carry universal keys.
Okay. Anybody have anything else on any of these specific items? I liked seeing the thing about potential use of real estate transfer taxes mentioned in the second affordable housing bullet. It's always been on my radar, but we might be able to someday pull something off in that area. We need all the funding sources we can get for workforce housing, so that's a big one. I think I had anything else. Anybody else have anything they want to mention or touch on? Ben.
On the bottom of the first page, on the collaborative, or the bottom of the second page, the collaborative regarding short-term rental information, ADU information. We're already doing this. I think we're contemplating doing this, but if we could add 2 words and enforcement to the end of that sentence, that probably captures.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Got that question?
Can we make it short-term information and enforcement and ADU information? Because we want to encourage ADUs, but the enforcements with the short-term rentals.
Yeah.
Small tweak.
Yeah. I agree.
That makes sense. Ben and Jay came in after I said my welcome, so thanks for showing up, guys. Welcome, and again, anything else anybody wants to touch on before we think we have to have a vote here tonight on our support of the MOU. That goes back to the county for their support. Unless you guys already voted on it? No. Okay. Anything else from up here?
I move to approve the MOU between Ridgway County and Town of Ridgway for 2022 operational funding request road and bridge appointments, apportionment from county to town and future goals.
Second that.
All right, motion made and seconded. Please.
Sure. Counselor Beck,
Aye.
Corelli,
I,
Grambly,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Schuyler,
Aye.
and Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Looking forward to another great year of collaboration. Yeah, really. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to item number 7. We're into public requests and presentations. Item number 7 is a proclamation declaring September 2021 as National Suicide Prevention Awareness and Recovery Month. Is Corinne Cavender here? Hi, Corinne.
Hi.
Welcome. You have some words of wisdom for us?
I do.
Okay.
Do you want me to, can I do it here? Do you want me to?
It's up to you. I mean, people seem to be more comfortable from the audience, but if you'll speak up, that'd be great.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So, right up for you. So as a lot of you know, suicide is a public health issue, yet many of us are still afraid to talk about it. It's time to take action to show your constituents that suicide prevention and education matter. And I say this as our community has been devastated by suicide, especially in the past 18 months. So to normalize mental health topics, increase suicide awareness, Tri-County Health Network Just asking your government to pass this proclamation declaring September as Suicide Prevention Month. To further bring awareness to Suicide Prevention Month, we are hosting events and providing resources for community members. These include mental health first aid classes and Safe Talk suicide alertness classes. We actually have a mental health first aid, a youth mental health first aid class here in Ridgway this upcoming Monday, and a Safe Talk and Telluride on the 21st. I also want to plug our teletherapy program as well as our behavioral health directory. Really want to make sure our communities are connected and know that they are not alone. So in conclusion, I just want to say thank you for having me, and I hope you'll join this fight to end stigma around mental health and create suicide safe communities. Thanks for having me. Great, thanks, Corinne. As some of you know, I've definitely made comments in the past about how important this is. As Corinne said, there have been a number, particularly of young people in the region who committed suicide over the past year. We all know how trying the year has been, a year and a half, going on 2 years. And just bringing awareness to this issue is really seriously important. I got a separate email this morning from the Center for Mental Health. Is that who you work for? No, I would Tri-County Health Network.
Okay.
We work closely with the center.
Yeah, I just want to mention a couple of things that they put in their email events coming up. There's a Trek for Life hike pedal here, Butte off in Crested Butte on September 10th and 11th this weekend. Then the NAMI Suicide Prevention Awareness Event is September 18th, 11 to 4 at the Elks Lodge in Montrose. Remind me what NAMI National
Alliance for Mental Illness.
So that's a really great program. And then lastly, September 26th, there's also a Telluride Out of Darkness AFSP walk. Tell us what AFSP stands for.
American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
Awesome.
And that walk is for the whole region. It's a Southwest Colorado walk, it's not just Telluride specific. So I really encourage you guys to come out and walk with us.
I think that's a Sunday.
Correct.
So that's awesome. So encourage everybody to take advantage of all these resources, join one of the mental health first aid classes. I did one last year myself. It's all really important, and I'm 1000% in support of this resolution, as I'm sure the rest of my council is. Absolutely.
Thank you for your help.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Corinne or comments?
You said there's an event here on Monday?
On Monday, yeah, we have our youth mental health first aid class. That's for adults who work with youth 18 and younger. So I have recognized signs and symptoms of mental health challenges. And that's at the Ridgway County Prayer Center.
Thank you. And we can find out, people can find out more information about that, I imagine, on the Tri-County website.
Yeah, tchnetwork.org.
Great, thanks. So, someone want to make a motion?
I move to approve a proclamation declaring September 2021 as National Suicide Prevention Awareness and Recovery Month.
I believe Brenda over here made the second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Okay. Counselor Beck,
Aye.
Corelli,
I.
Brambley,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Schuyler,
Aye.
and Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks, Corinne. Appreciate it. And this proclamation will be put on the website and various social media networks and everything. Probably should have read that whole thing, but I'm going to keep us moving.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to item number 8, request for waiver of monthly sewer fees during construction. Mr. Vollenweider.
Yes, last August 1st, I abandoned a house at 271 South Mary. It was a single wide trailer, and I haven't used any water or any sewer services there for the whole year that it took me to build the house. And I'm requesting that you give me relief. Of course, I'd like to get relief for both water and sewer because I saved the town not only about between 50 and 100,000 gallons of having to deliver water there for a year, and also the amount of sewage that would have gone into the sewer treatment plant to be treated. I'm thinking that It took about between $5,000 and $7,000 to take that trailer out according to all the rules that we have in town in the state of Colorado. And that alone was a hardship that had not necessarily anticipated that would be that expensive. The asbestos test alone, just the test cost $3,000. And I'm thinking that it would be nice on the town's side to give me relief and also show appreciation that I do so for having a single wide trailer home removed from the town premises and substituted with a nice family home that adds value and beauty to our neighborhood. And that's why I'm here. So the sewer would be $420 and the water would be $360 for a total of $780 of relief that I'm hoping that you will see in my favor.
All right, we've got the relevant area, the section of the code highlighted for us here. I don't know if you provided that or Preston, but
Pam did.
And I don't know if staff has comment on this request or stance on it.
No, I don't have anything too substantive to add outside of what's highlighted there in the code. And I haven't had a request like this in my time here. And I'm curious to hear from you, John, or others who've been here before me on whether or not there have been requests like this in the past. I don't believe there's a precedent for it, given what it says in the code. And those tabs aren't currently abandoned. So for what it's worth, those are my thoughts off the cuff.
So I was thinking when we have given relief to affordable housing projects and their tap fees, we have had to pay that money out of town coffers. So I am not really sure how we could waive this money without using taxpayer money to pay back our own fees. Because our water and sewer are enterprise funds. So that definitely raises.
It's tricky in that
concerns.
because they're enterprise zone funds, we can't, enterprise funds, we can't just, not charge them on case-by-case basis. I do believe that there's a vacancy rate for water. Is that right?
Yeah, there's just a standing rate.
Standard rate that is lower than what you pay. Like you can ask for that when you go away part of the year or something like that.
My own experience, I had a vacant lot next to me that I owned for a year and a half, was paying fees the whole time.
Right.
There's nothing on the lot. It was just
Right.
vacant. But
And is the sewer fee part of that or not?
just the water rate,
I guess I would, ask if staff wanted to look into seeing whether it might make sense to do it. I have no idea why not have a vacancy rate for sewer and to have one for water seems kind of inconsistent. So I could imagine looking into that and seeing if we wanted to amend the code, but aside from amending the code, I don't really think we have any choice. No, I don't think we can, as Beth pointed out, I think our hands are tied in terms of the fact that these water and sewer charges go into a dedicated fund that is designed to pay for the cost of producing the water and processing the sewer and basically because of that, some other taxpayer dollars would have to pay for the money that you're asking us to give you back, and that doesn't seem fair. So.
Well, I agree with you there. I just don't think it's fair to charge me for services that I don't need while I'm improving the property and going to the sales tax alone on this project and all other monies that are coming in from the improving should also be have an option to be recognized. And I did receive the water standard rate of $30 months when I asked at the town hall, but they told me that they couldn't do anything about the sewer because there's nothing on the code. That's why part of the reason why I'm here. is because it seems to me that it's disadvantages me in that sense, and maybe other people too. And sure, I understand how the fund works, and at the same time, if you're not contributing to any cost of the fund, then you basically just carrying dead weight by having charges that are not, the services are not needed.
So I guess I'm confused how this is different than any other house under construction. Like as soon as I, like you said, as soon as I paid my tap fee, I'm paying my rate when my house was under construction. And I do sort of agree there should be a vacancy rate for the sewer as well, because that's even less of a demand than the water. But unfortunately, it's not in the code right now.
Well, we have to actually change that.
Well, but then the question is, how far back do we retroactively do it? Right, you did it under the code as it's written now. It's like,
Question of willingness or resistance.
could be a big dollar amount.
I'm not sure if we even could do it retroactive, but
I think we'd have some reservations, particularly with the enterprise fund aspect of it. It's not clear to me, but I think potentially the council could consider if there were periods of time where the away or standby rate wasn't applied, you could potentially look at a retroactive application there, but
Open up the floodgates.
I agree with respect to it's kind of an unfortunate situation, but it's actually not too uncommon with respect to new construction, as Beth indicated. There's people that have taps in place for years and pay a standalone fee just because they want to get in at the lower tap rate versus if there's an accelerated increase in the tap fees.
Well, I've had a tap at 642 North Door on the industrial lot, and I've never tapped into it, so even though I own the tap, and I paid $75 for it, I've never used it, I've never gotten a bill for it. There is a case where I don't get any bills for that property, even though I have a tap for it.
But you buy in at that potentially lower rate.
Like I said, I paid $7,000 for it, that was in 1997.
well, if the code said, this particular clause of the code says at the time service is first initiated. So I guess if a tap is paid for but hasn't actually been connected, then
Because had you abandoned the tap, then you would have had to pay a new tap fee at our current rates for your current property. So,
I mean, I empathize with your concerns. I think the best we can do is to direct staff to look at creating the vacancy rate for sewer charges as well. And you'll get a pat on the back from future builders who get to take advantage of that. But I don't think we can do anything for you now. It'd be my take on what it feels differently. What's everybody think?
It establishes a precedent.
Well, it's just a matter of looking at having the staff look at the code and see if it makes sense.
That's not what I meant. I meant waiving this.
Oh, yeah. I got you.
I don't think we have a mechanism to waive the fees as we're being asked to.
Right,
Okay,
not
we're gonna
without
do the
having
current
to cover the costs ourselves, yeah.
We also demonstrated that help with the offset of costs of building in town of Ridgway, which would then go on to monitor the border for affordable housing. So there's different ways of looking at this particular.
Are you willing to make your property deed restricted? Then we can talk.
No, I have rentals that I keep. I do have rentals that I keep going, so that families
I'm
can live
teasing.
in town, so, okay? We all do what we can
I understand.
as we go about our business.
And I think what we're saying is that, this is something that, for what's worth is it's a level playing field. Everybody who's building a home or developing a lot in Ridgway has to play by the same rules. And I think it makes sense to have the staff take a look and see if maybe the code could be amended for future development to establish that vacancy rate for sewer charges. But other than that, I don't think we can do anything for it tonight. So, but thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Okay.
Anything else on this item? I always forget to ask anybody on Zoom, have a comment, question? All right, thanks, Kuno.
Yeah.
I did see that Robin joined us. How does that feel about going back and taking public comment at this point? Okay, Robin, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Mayor
Are you Robin?
Clark.
Yes. Is that you, Robin? Or is that Sheila? Sorry, Sheila's hand was up too. Is anybody there?
She doesn't know she.
I see that Sheila is unmuted. She had her hand up. Sheila, did you want to add something about this item or something else about Kuno's?
No, I'm for item number 9.
Okay, so we haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay.
So we'll get back to you on that. Robin, go ahead. Can you hear us?
I can, and I'll just just say hello, and then I'm going to close my video because
yeah, we don't need
so
to be.
Mayor Clark, are you asking, is it okay if I go back to public comment, or were you saying, oh my gosh, thank you so much, and I apologize for having my half hour wrong. So I'm actually here to ask council for a letter to the BLM, a comment letter. And the reason why, so Robin Cascade, I live here in Ridgway, Sabeda Drive. The BLM has issued a proposed decision on domestic sheep grazing that jeopardizes our nearby Tier 1 bighorn sheep herd up in the sort of upper reaches of Bear Creek and American Flats and American Lake. The reason it's such an issue is that domestic sheep carry a pathogen that to which the domestic sheep are resistant, but the bighorn are not. And that herd is what's called a Tier 1 herd, which means it has little to no genetic introduction. So it is like cream of the crop, Colorado born and bred bighorn sheep herd that we have right here in our county. And this decision by the BLM office out of Gunnison is jeopardizing that herd. If one domestic, or I should say, if one bighorn sheep is infected, they can bring that pathogen back to the entire herd. And you can have a die-off. You can also have individual mortality. CPW has also reported that lamb recruitment, which in normal words would be lamb survivability, is depleted in proximity to these domestic sheep. So what we know in that area is the decision is to have grazing continue in an area that is right on the border of what is summer range for the bighorn. And of course, these borders are lines on the map, but we know that bighorn foray 20 miles easily. We also know that domestic sheep are sometimes left up there and they stray from the herd, either while the shepherds are there or after the season. Sometimes the owners have to go back and retrieve them. And the second part is that the allotments for domestic grazing are very close proximity, probably within a mile of known reproduction areas, which is where the bighorn reproduce. If a bighorn is found with the disease, it is euthanized. which is also another problem, but really the spread is the bigger. They euthanize them so they won't spread it back to the herd. I can share with folks, it's rather short notice because it's only a 15-day comment period. And because the town of Ridgway did not comment before your comment period starts on August 27th, when they released the decision. So basically you have until given weekends, you have until September by the 13th or delivered to the Montrose Public Lands Office. I am happy to do whatever I can to supply you with the information you need, including draft comments. They don't have to be extensive, but to have the town of Ridgway on record as opposing their decision, their proposed decision, would be really helpful.
Okay, thanks, Robin. What's the feeling of council? Are we interested in having Robin supply us with some verbiage and trying to pull a letter together?
Yeah, if we can squeeze it in, I think that's beneficial.
Yeah, I will, I've already just pulled up the EIS that the BLM put out, but there's a couple of papers out there that basically say 90% of bighorn sheep that come in contact with domestic sheep end up dying of pneumonia, like scientific papers. So
yeah,
I'll definitely look through this some more, but I think it sounds like it'll be interesting to see what the rationale is when I find it.
Okay, is SAP okay with us trying to tackle this with, and if between say Beth and I, we try and put the letter together, and
Yeah, I think that's fine.
the council could, if it's not appropriate to do it tonight, it could ratify it.
No, I think that what the direction should be would be maybe a motion to give, say, the mayor and Councilmember Lincoln the authority to work with Ms. Cascade to draft the letter, and just under these concepts, and then it would just, I don't even think you need to ratify it, maybe just include it or circulate it after it's finalized.
Okay, great. Somebody want to say so moved?
So moved.
Based on those comments?
Yeah.
Based on those comments.
I'm gonna have to repeat.
I mean, and you also
Is there a
know
second?
my general opinion, just, you all know, what is the biologist data saying?
Yeah,
Like, that's,
Okay. Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Meyer, seconded by Terry. Can we roll call vote, please?
sure.
Counselor Beck,
Aye.
I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Ron.
okay, Counselor Farrelly,
Aye.
Rambley,
Aye.
Lakin,
I'm
Skylar.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
Great. Thanks, everybody, and thanks for being willing to go back and revisit Robin's concerns. And thank you, Robin. We'll be in touch. All right. that
Thanks
takes-
so much. And again, I apologize
It's okay. You're cutting out a bunch. so
meeting. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right. That takes us to item number 9. Request for letter of support for Ridgway Chautauqua Society application for enterprise zone tax credit program with the state of Colorado. And we all know how hard it is to spell the word Chautauqua. Sheila, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, Sheila Williams, and I'm president of the Ridgway Chautauqua Society Board. And first of all, I want to thank you for having Zoom as an option for those of us who are being extremely cautious. Second, we really appreciate how much support we have from the town. The beer tent concession is a huge fundraiser for us, and you often give us money every year as part of the grant process. What we're asking for here.
Sheila,
Yes.
Sheila, can I interrupt for a second? I'm just realizing as a member of the board of the Chautauqua Society, I need to recuse myself from this item. So I'm going to let Mayor Pro Tem Meyer take it from here. Thank you.
Okay, so what we're asking for here is we have had been part of the enterprise, Region 10's enterprise zone tax credit for donors for 10 years. That's up at the end of the year. We are applying for an extension these days. They do it for 5 years instead of 10. And we are trying to hit the September 24th deadline. One of the requirements is that we have a letter of support from our local municipality. And that's what we're asking for. It makes a difference to our donors. They can get a tax credit for their donations that keep us being able to have the doors open. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody have any questions?
This seems like a no-brainer to me.
Sure.
Definitely.
All right, we'll open it up for public comment. If anybody has any comments from the Zoom or in the audience. Seeing none, look for a motion.
To approve the letter of support for the Region 10 Enterprise Zone tax credits for the Ridgway Chautauqua Society.
Second.
Motion made by Beth Lakin, seconded by Kevin Grambly. Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Beck,
Aye.
Pirelli,
I.
Grambly,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
and Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Sheila.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm assuming Pam can get me an electronic copy of that in the next few days so that I can upload that as part of that application.
Yes, we'll work on that.
Great. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate all your support.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along. Thanks for doing that for me, Russ. Moving along to item number 10, annual presentation from Eco Action Partners regarding programs, projects, and initiatives and request for funding. Do we have Kim? Looks like Kim's on Zoom.
Yes, and I'm here as well. I couldn't change my name. But this is Madrona on Zoom as well.
Okay.
And we do have some slides to share, but it looks like screen sharing has been disabled. Is that a possibility to allow that for us?
Yeah.
Yes, 1 second, please.
Preston's working on it. He's got it up on the projector here in Town Hall for us and the people in the audience here, and is working on getting you access there.
Thank you.
Should be good to go.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. So, hi everyone, and thank you so much for having us today. I'm Madrona. I'm the Executive Director of Eco Action Partners, and I'm joined here today by Kim Wheels, our Energy Specialist. We're going to share some organizational and program updates and go through a funding request. Just a quick overview. For those of you who are not familiar with Eco Action Partners, we are a sustainability nonprofit who focus on tracking our regional greenhouse gas emissions and coordinating programming that helps reduce energy and waste across San Miguel and Uribe County. Today, we're going to go through updates on our 4 general program areas: emissions analysis, community outreach, energy, and waste programming. Before we go any further, I do want to talk quickly about why this all matters. We're feeling the adverse effects of climate change right now. As of August 6th, across the country, nearly 39,000 wildfires have burned over 3.4 million acres of land, and our fire seasons are getting longer every year and fires are getting bigger. Our region is one of the worst in the country in terms of temperature change, and our average temps have gone up by about 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit. And we are also in an extended period of drought. This is a map from earlier this summer, but before we received a lot of the rain that we're lucky to have, but we're still in the extreme drought category in much of our region. The effects of climate change are directly impacting our health, our economy, and our environment, and we need to plan for this and take proactive action. Because of this, we create climate action plans and track our emissions so that we can create programming that will have the biggest impact towards our emission reduction goals. I'm going to pass it off to Kim to chat about our Snuffles Energy Board efforts and greenhouse gas emissions.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm going to stay on audio I'm traveling, so I'm trying to make sure that I have sufficient internet for audio to work and not have technical glitches. So thank you for having us here this evening. I'm going to just give an overview of the Snuffles Energy Board and the Snuffles Energy Board priorities for this year. Eco Action Partners has coordinated the Snuffles Energy Board across the region since about 2009, which it was formed in order to apply for a regional grant opportunity. And we continue to operate as a regional board of government, utility, and citizen representatives meeting about quarterly. And we collaborate to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, analyzing progress, informing successful regional programs, identifying new opportunities, and a lot of communication across the region, intergovernmental, in order to share information, share experiences, and not recreate the wheel. Our two current priorities are greenhouse gas emissions tracking and analysis that inform our decision making, and then updating our regional climate action plan. I'm going to give you a brief overview of these this evening in the interest of time. Emma, go ahead and switch to the next slide, please. And the brief overview, normally, if those of you who know me, I typically try to fly through a lot of different slides and charts. Tonight will be just a few. Eco Action Partners is planning to come back to you this fall and winter with an extensive community outreach process to engage the community, as well as all of the elected officials in our regional climate action plan. And that will include more extensive education and information related to our greenhouse gas emissions. So for tonight, we'll keep it pretty short and brief on these categories. This is a pie chart that you may recall seeing in the past. It looks just slightly different this year, but the blue section is still building energy use. That's residential and commercial buildings, and it's the electricity and natural gas used by those buildings. That energy use, or those emissions, still make up the largest percent of our pie, 46%. We've been able to obtain updated transportation information this year. So our transportation percent of the pie has gone from about 26 or 27% up to 29%. That increase was primarily due to, well, it's vehicle travel and then some related to air travel as well, since the initial data in 2010. And then we also, with our increase in visitors, as well as residents, we have an increase in food purchase and waste associated with people that are in our region. Next slide, please, Emma. So we've been tracking our trend of our greenhouse gas emissions. And because that building energy use section, that the blue section of that pie chart, is the largest section, and it's also the most reliable data because it's based on bills, utility bills that are monthly, and that data is provided directly by SMPA and Black Hills. We separate out and pull out that part of the pie chart to see how we're doing with tracking on our goal to reach 20% reduction by 2020. So we now have data from 2010 to 2020. This is just emissions associated with energy use. The red dotted line is our goal of 20% by 2020. And you can, the 2020 bar there, you can see that we achieved in emissions of about 161,700 metric tons, which is below our goal based on a 2010 baseline. And so when it comes to emissions associated with energy use, we have achieved our 20% goal by last year. So it's super exciting. That is associated with both energy efficiency and programs that we've put into place and individual actions and governments. It's also associated with an increase in renewable energy. And that increases both local actions as well as tri-states activities. And I wanted to show you on the next slide is a chart that SMPA has helped me out with in analyzing how much of our local SMPA electricity comes from non-renewable sources. The brown is the tri-state fossil fuel source, and all of the rest of the other colors are associated with renewable energy, either provided by tri-state or generated here locally. And you'll see that we have increased since 2010, that percentage of renewable energy has increased from 14% up to 37% associated with non-fossil fuel related electricity production. And what this tells us is that that's a significant reason for why we've reached our 20% by 2020 reduction goal, and that our goals are interlinked with the actions and the policies at tri-state, SMPA, as well as state and national policies. One thing that I want to point out is that our local voices and actions have influenced our change. And one of these examples is that SMPA's region is now allowed to develop an additional 2% of local generation beyond the 5% cap, strictly through community solar. So we have an additional 2% of generation that we can create through community solar projects. Next slide, please, Emma. We are in the process, this data that I've been analyzing for 10 plus years is all, we are working on transitioning that from the spreadsheet system that we started off with in 2010 over to a online tool from ICLEI. It's called ClearPath. And that will enable advanced greenhouse gas forecasting abilities, the ability to compare to 300 plus communities, and a wealth of resources available through ICLEI. In addition to the fact that it's an online tool that gets updated regularly to stay in line with the global protocol for community scale emissions inventories, which have progressed quite a bit since we started tracking our community level emissions 10 years ago. There's been advancement in greenhouse gas inventories as well as climate action plans. Next slide, Emma. And so along with that, we are 10 years into our original regional sustainability action plan that we created in 2010. And so we are in the process now of updating that to make it more modern and user-friendly and give us a guideline for the next 10 plus years. We will continue to include the sectors of our emissions that we have analyzed in the past, as well as adding land use into that inventory. And again, we'll go into this much more in depth next time we come to see you, and we'll be communicating with our government liaisons to determine the best method of engaging everybody from government level to all of your citizens of each community. So next slide, I just wanted to show just a little bit related to what is in that climate action plan. It's very action oriented, and we have actions within each of those 9 sectors that all communities across the region can engage in and enact and put into place. It highlights the greenhouse gas reduction potential associated with each action that will be determined through the forecasting tool using the ClearPath tool from ICLEI, as well as the co-benefits and the timeline in which we expect that we will be able to accomplish those actions and the partners that are needed in order to put it into place. So that's just a brief overview of what the climate action plan will look like. And again, we'll be back in front of you with that in a few months here. Emma, I think that's it, unless anybody has any questions related to those.
Anybody have any questions for Kim? Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
I think we're good. Emma, take it away.
Great, thank you, Kim. I'm now going to dive into some of our regional programming, starting with our Truth or Dare student program. It's an educational program which challenges students to reduce their carbon footprint through actionable dares, like taking shorter showers, unplugging electronics, carpooling, or walking to school. We had to shift the program entirely to be on Zoom this year due to COVID, and are returning to schools this fall for a second round of classes, be that online or in person. We were able to present to 5 schools this spring to over 250 students, 84 of whom completed the challenge, and their ongoing actions reduced 14,000 pounds of CO2. And we're also excited this fall to be developing a math and sustainability curriculum for middle school students. So we're excited to see that program growing. I wanted to highlight some of our community outreach efforts as well from this past year. In February and April, we partnered with the Wilkinson Public Library for a climate panel series, which was supported by an American Libraries Association pilot grant meant to support more climate-related events in our libraries. And the event focused on climate action planning and business sustainability resources. In May, we partnered with Sheep Mountain Alliance to host a forest health forum across 4 different dates to talk about our forest health. And we presented on our climate action plan and different local land initiatives that folks can get involved in our area. And the recording of that event is actually available on our website if anyone missed it and might be interested in listening back. We had a number of student events, including 2 classes in Norwood at their library around energy and waste, and a course for the Telluride Academy Planet Protectors Camp around waste. And then upcoming events that I wanted to highlight: on September 14th in Telluride and the 15th in Ridgway, we have a Green Business Roundtable event where we'll share resources and information about that program, and also hear from businesses what matters to you in being more sustainable. And you can register for those on our website. And then lastly, as Kim mentioned, we are looking forward to our climate action plan public engagement and input period, and information on how people can get involved in that will be coming out pretty soon here, as soon as we have set dates and information on that. Up next is our SMPA Income Qualified Weatherization Program, which provides services to low and middle income households in our region. It not only lowers energy use, it saves people money and also increases the livability and comfort of people's homes. There's so many valuable services provided through the program, like refrigerator replacement, air sealing, insulation upgrades, water saving fixtures, and so much more, all for free for the participants. And we were really excited to welcome an AmeriCorps Vista to our team this year, who's working to develop a more equitable outreach strategy for the program and is conducting a feasibility study for additional renewable energy capacity, since our current community solar array is 100% sold out. So we're really excited to see that resource being used, but also looking forward to the development of further solar capacity in our region. I wanted to point out that the program is available for residents with up to 80% of their area median income. So it really encompasses low and middle income households. Up next is our rebate administration for SMPA. We've been doing this for a couple years now and launched an online application process when we took over the program, and are just continuing to streamline that application and approval process to get people rebates as quickly as possible. And are excited to continue to share new rebates with folks in our region, including one that just came up for electric bikes for commuting purposes. Up next is our Green Business Membership Program, which helps to connect businesses with resources, rebates, and incentives to pursue energy efficiency upgrades, starting with a free customized energy assessment. We shifted the program this year to be a membership-based program with a one-time certification process. That certification will bring businesses through a customized high priority action item list, like that energy assessment, installing LED bulbs and smart thermostats. And then the membership will actually focus on ongoing engagement and larger project and sustainability consulting. As I mentioned, we do have those upcoming roundtable events on the 14th in Telluride and 15th in Ridgway to launch the new format of the program. So we're really excited to do that and spotlight some local efforts from businesses who have been involved in the program up until now. So I highly recommend that you register for that if you think you might be interested. Again, to show the difference with membership and certification, membership will offer resources, consulting services, and general sustainability support. And then the certification process involves those high priority action items, the free energy audit from Black Hills Energy, and better understanding what improvements will have the biggest impact on a business's emissions and expenses. Some of the resources that we utilize to support this program include that Eco Action Partners as Black Hills Trade Allies were able to unlock contractor spiffs that we pass off to business, so able to do work for cheaper than a regular contractor. We also received a grant from the Colorado Division of Environmental Health and Sustainability to provide materials like smart thermostats, all for free to businesses. And then we also help out with those SMPA rebates, so filling out forms and providing assistance on that application process for businesses. And lastly, on that program, I just want to highlight a couple of the current participants. So we're really excited to continue to work with these organizations and expand the program and help our businesses save energy, money, and learn more about our local sustainability initiatives. Up next is our Green Lights LED program, which provides a 75% discount upfront on LED bulbs. It's one of the easiest ways to cut energy usage. Unfortunately, because of COVID, there have been ongoing supply chain issues. So it's been difficult to get inventory of bulbs to be able to sell at in-person events like we did before COVID. But we've continued to work with businesses and governments on their specific orders and providing those discounts. We are going to have that program continue as under the umbrella of green business rather than as its own program going forward because of those supply chain challenges. We want to be able to provide this assistance, but also want it to be as easy as possible for individuals to get those bulbs, and it's definitely easier to get those within our community now than it was when we started the program. And lastly, I want to touch on a couple of our waste-related programs. So starting out with our plastic film program, this actually grew out of one of those past Green Business Roundtable events. We found a way to upcycle plastic film into Trex decking and furniture, and have upcycled over 1,100 pounds of plastic since the program began. And this year we were really excited to introduce a new business use program in Ridgway with a collection shed at the hardware store, and funds from businesses who join the program will help support our sustainability programming in Ridgway and volunteer efforts needed to run the plastic film program. Our composting, recycling, and trash services, we partner with festivals and events to help them decrease their waste from what materials they're using, so bringing in compostable cups, to increasing what actually is getting composted and recycled at the events. And then after the festival, help to donate hundreds of pounds of leftover food to our local food bank. So we're really working with these events from the very beginning, planning stages through the end of the festivals, and then working to educate festival attendees as well on local sustainability programming and resources. And this summer, so far, we've partnered with Telluride Bluegrass and Jazz Festival and plan to be at Telluride Blues and Brews as well. And finally, I just want to highlight our waste reduction support for the Ridgway community, including ongoing efforts to support compost program development and research for potential collaborative programming, along with a new page on our website that promotes existing composting resources for our region. So we at Eco Action Partners look forward to continuing our work with the town of Ridgway. I want to thank you all for your partnership. We are really appreciative for the work you all do with us. It's an incredibly important programs, as you saw. In addition to these programs, we support the community through our regional services that Kim talked about. So those sustainability resources, NEFL's Energy Board participation, the regional greenhouse gas inventory tracking and analysis, individual community energy analysis, and government energy tracking. So we look forward to continuing our work with the town of Ridgway and are requesting $5,000 in support of all of these programs, the regional support and emissions tracking, and our support of your community in energy and waste reduction goals. I want to say thank you so much to all of our partners for their incredible support of our programs, and to all of you for your time today. And I will open it up to questions.
All right, thanks, Emma. Thanks, Kim. Anybody up here have any questions for these ladies? Very comprehensive report as always. We appreciate all the work you guys do for us and everyone else in the region. First, we're just starting the budget process, so we'll take your funding request in line with all the others that we're getting this time of year, and let you know how that goes. Anybody have any questions for either of them?
I was impressed by the few graphs, Kim. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hopefully they were comprehensible.
It was good report. Anybody in the audience, either here at Town Hall or on Zoom, have any questions for these guys? I don't see any. I think you guys wowed us.
Great. Thank you so much again. We appreciate it.
All right, appreciate you guys.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, talk to you again. All right, that takes us to item number 11, which is the annual presentation from San Miguel Power Association regarding programs, projects, and initiatives. Alex, welcome.
Thank you. I'll take the podium.
Sure, we like that.
The first one, but just a chance to stand up in my chair is a good thing. Well, thank you, Town Council, for having me here to present this update. I'll go ahead and jump into it, Preston. Talk about our rebates, our rebate programs. As you know, we offer rebates to our members, and we've been offering energy efficiency rebates for a number of years. These are intended to help our members save energy and save money. There's an additional benefit to energy efficiency in that it lowers demand. And so this has an additional benefit in that it requires fewer emissions to generate energy that's not used because of efficiency programs. And that goes along with our mission at SMPA to be environmentally responsible even as we deliver energy to our members. And that's a mission that we staff take very seriously. And so you'll see, not only do we offer the efficiency rebates, but also renewable energy rebates. And this is actually kind of unique to SMPA. Not every rural electric cooperative that you'll find will offer rebates to incentivize members to put solar panels on their roofs. Or we've even got some small hydro systems that are on our grid. And so we're excited to see that, and we're excited to incentivize it. That also brings me to the third kind of category of rebate, and that's the newest. And these are beneficial electrification, which is a lot of syllables, I know, but the idea is very simple. Basically, we know in the industry that electricity is getting cleaner. The entire sector nationwide is moving away from fossil fuels and toward renewable energy. So when you replace something that used to burn gas, say a weed whacker, with an electric version or an electric alternative, essentially you are benefiting the environment by not burning those emissions and using electricity, which is becoming increasingly cleaner. So we want to provide incentives for our members to do that as well. And we introduced these just this year at the high school's Earth Day event. And the picture of that event, Mayor Clark, thank you for being there. And I do want to extend a thank you to this town council for going totally green, for being part of that program. You are contributing to help make these rebates possible for our members. And so thank you from us to you on that. That leads me to talk a little bit about the Green Fund that you are supporting. Our Green Fund at SMPA is, again, kind of a unique program in that it is completely separate from our general fund. It has no effect on rates, and it's completely volunteer supported. And it allows us to do some really cool things. For instance, we've got 3 solar arrays that put energy onto our grid. Does anybody know where they are? I'm curious.
One's up on it's up on Hastings Mesa.
Here, yeah, that's right. That would be the Telluride Last Dollar Solar.
Right.
And that's our most recent one that has gone on. We don't own that, but we do purchase that power from that array.
First one was out in Paradox.
Paradox, that's right. So that's 2. And the third one is in Norwood. That's actually our IQ solar. And so our IQ income qualified participants, and when they're finished with their efficiency upgrades, we patch them into that IQ solar and they recoup additional benefits on their power bill from generation from that array. So these are the kinds of programs that we're able to offer because of that green fund, and the green fund exists because of donations from, you know, from our members. So
Alex, are there any subscriptions available on those arrays?
I believe they're all signed out. So that leads me to, I know, womp womp, but I bring a ray of sunshine, get it?
Boy, these guys.
Although if you combine the generation that we make from those arrays with the generation that we get from some local small hydro units, that brings us up to 5% of our total need. And under contract from our wholesaler, which is Tri-State, we are limited under policy 115 to that 5%. However, Tri-State has just brought online their new policy 119, which gives us, as Kim mentioned, an additional 2% of our load, which equates to about 2 megawatts that we can supply, we can self-supply with solar. And so 2 megawatts, for us, that's a big deal. Our biggest producer right now, in terms of renewables, is that 1 megawatt array. And for frame of reference, that's, you know, enough energy to power roughly 100 homes for a year. So to be able to then not only double that, but actually triple it by adding another 2 megawatts is just, well, it's tantalizing. So we are excited to take the first step. And one of the things that I want to accomplish tonight is to come to you and see if you can help us to find the first puzzle piece to make this happen. And that is finding the site or the land for where we could put a new solar array. Now, we have some specific criteria in order to make this work. We would be looking for a lease that would be either low cost or possibly no cost. We would be looking for a site that is accessible by vehicles, a site that is near one of our 3-phase power lines, and of course, a site that gets good sun. So, you know, not every spot will work, but any ideas that you might have to help us either find something within city limits or even outside that you might know, we want to know about it. We want to look at all possibilities because we want to get this thing done.
How big a site do you need?
What was that?
How big a site? How many acres?
So right now, we're at the early stages. We'll say anything from 2 to 20 acres. And that's, you know, we don't know if we're talking about one array or more than one array. So at this point, it's pretty wide open. Okay, so let's say that happens. Let's say we're self-supplying 5% of our needs, and then we're able to bring in this additional 2% for 7. That begs the question, what about the other 93%? Well, that is the responsibility of our wholesaler, Tri-State. And as we sit now, about a third of the energy that we're getting from Tri-State is coming from renewable sources, non-emitting sources like solar, wind, and hydro. But Tri-State has recently also announced their responsible energy plan, which is a very ambitious change. It's a transformative, it's a complete transformation, honestly, of how they generate power. So it includes shutting down coal plants in both Colorado and New Mexico. And it includes introducing over 300 megawatts of wind power. Now, hang on a second. We were proud of our 1 megawatt array. This is 300 megawatts of wind power throughout 2 states. And then that would be, to add it to that, would be over 700 megawatts of solar. So this is a massive change that Tri-State is undertaking. They have set goals to be at the halfway point. They want to be at 2024. They want to be half renewable. And by 2030, they want to be 70% clean, emissions-free energy. So if we do nothing else, that is going to happen to the large portion of our energy. Even so, our board is taking a comprehensive look at our power supply, and that includes all options, which would include leaving Tri-State and getting our energy somewhere else, or taking a partial amount of our power from Tri-State and supplying, self-supplying, or supplying from another vendor. So about this time last year, our board put out a request for proposals, and they received and have been analyzing those proposals from potential wholesale power providers. Now, we're kind of at a stopping place because the board can't move forward until we have some critical information. And that's represented by these letters here, a little bit of alphabet soup. The CTP stands for contract termination payment. So one of the options that our board is weighing is a complete exit from Tri-State, similar to what our neighbor to the north did, DMEA. If we were to do that, the question is, what would it cost? Of course, Tri-State wants to make sure that their remaining members are not left holding the bag for all of the energy that we would not purchase in that contract. And so that is going to equate to a number. So that number is the CTP, and currently only Tri-State has the ability to calculate that. And frankly, we want to be able to do that ourselves. So our board has directed staff to be extremely active in the proceedings that are going on at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, which Tri-State falls under their jurisdiction. And there are dockets going on right now where they are discussing these items, the CTP and the BDP. I didn't tell you about that. The BDP stands for buy down payment. And that refers to another option we're considering, which is not exiting out of Tri-State completely, but going partial requirements. And so that is another figure, the buy down payment, that we don't have and that Tri-State does. So there is movement as these discussions are going on. Tri-State just last week filed a tariff for the CTP, and that will go under review by FERC. So these things are happening, and we are as engaged as we can possibly be. Another docket that just did get finished at FERC is the one about the stated rate. And this brings a little bit of good news. The settlement resulted in a 2% wholesale rate decrease. That's right, I said decrease. For this year, it's actually retroactive to March. And then we're going to see another 2% decrease next year. So this is going to provide relief, and it's going to help for what I've got on my next slide. One of our most critical needs at this time, and that's fire mitigation. So here's a not so fun fact. The top 3 largest wildfires in Colorado's recorded history in terms of acreage happened last year, all 3. This year, as Kim, she's the one who showed the map. I was too scared to show all that red, but the US Drought Monitor has designated areas in our service territory under that severe category, the extreme category, the exceptional. I mean, they're going to have to start coming up with more adjectives to describe how bad it is. And this is the background that our board took into account when they created our strategic objective that puts fire mitigation at the very top of our priorities. So what are we doing? Well, we're utilizing some new technologies. We have devices that we can install on our system. Trip savers is one of them. Another one is a non-expulsion fuse. We're able to install these to make our system safer. They are not cheap, and so we're having to be staged as we deploy these and strategic. Fortunately, we have additional technology in our GIS software that gives us a fire map layer based on historical data that helps us to make very intelligent decisions about where we install this equipment so that we get a maximum benefit. Of course, anytime a county or Forest Service declares fire restrictions and our infrastructure is in that area, then we will change our policy as to how we deal with power outages. And we call that the non-reclose procedure. And I always have to explain, a closed circuit is a good thing. Open is bad. So non-reclose means that if a circuit opens, and it happens for a number of reasons, normally our system will automatically try to reclose that circuit. But under these fire restrictions, we set our system to non-reclose, which means we've got to have crews drive out to the site and inspect. Now, it causes power outages to be long. There's just no way around it. But there's nothing safer than having eyeballs on the ground to make sure that re-energizing that line won't start a fire. But by far, the most critical strategy that we have to prevent fires is vegetation management. And you can see the picture here is one that I snapped above Highway 550. This is some of the vegetation management work that is going on to clear the 75-foot right-of-way up over Red Mountain Pass. It has become overgrown and it's dangerous. So we are, as you can see, the work is expensive, it's hazardous, and it's going to require up there road closures. So we've had a couple of false starts with our road closures, but we currently are holding a permit from CDOT to close the roads beginning next week. And I have information about this for anybody who's interested. I've got our flyers. I've posted these around, particularly Silverton and Uray, but I'll also put them up around here. They're also on our website, and they give a lot more detail than what I'm going to give tonight. I'll tell you the schedule basically. Beginning Monday from 8:30 to noon, the road will be closed. This is Highway 550. There'll be an opening at lunchtime from noon to 1 to clear the traffic queue. And then it'll close again from 1 to 5:30. And that's Monday through Friday next week, and then the following week, the week of the 20th. The one exception is Friday the 17th. We will open up the roads early in the afternoon at 4, and that's to accommodate for the Jeep Jamboree. So if you haven't educated yourself about this, please do go to our website. We've got a map on there. We've got more specific information. And of course, you can always call us, call me, I'm Alex. Terry works at SMPA. Call Brad. He will, if he's available, he'll take your call. We'd love to give as much information about this as we can. Speaking of the website,
Alex, before you leave that, and for plain dealers recognition, she's not recognized.
She's not recognizing you, Terry.
Liz, one item about the road closure that you didn't publish in the article that's coming out tomorrow, because I just happened to read it.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm Erin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. What's up, Terry?
One of the nuances of the road closure is that at any time during the road closure, anybody on CR 18 can actually exit back to Uray, even when the road is closed. So it's a small nuance that's on this brochure, but it probably ought to be publicized. We did meet with all the Jeep companies and describe that to them, and they were ecstatic because that gives them some midday relief. They can leave the Engineer Pass Road and come back to Uray anytime during the day. Cool. Even during the closure, they just can't get to that spot except during the openings.
They'd have to beat the.
Right, you can't get back.
They'd have to get up there before you.
Yep. Yep.
But it's entirely possible to do that. So,
Cool.
yeah, thank you, Terry.
And the Jeep companies are aware of that. The Jeep Jamboree is aware of that. It seems like a small item, but it allows them to get up onto the Engineer's Pass early and come back anytime during the day.
Cool.
No problem. So, Preston, if you want to go to the next one there. This is a little screenshot of our website, and I do want to encourage anyone here, members of the public, members of the council, to go to our website. As you know, as you probably know, we have not done an annual meeting the way we used to pre-COVID. For 2 years, we've had to cancel that event. So we're having to think outside the box. And what we've done is we provided videos online for our members to get the information that they would normally get at an annual meeting. Last year, we did one 6-minute video, and this year we've broken it up into 8 videos that are about a minute in length. That's just to make it a little bit quicker and easier for people to consume. Well, I should say 6 of these are hosted now on our website. And also most people don't know the power company actually has a YouTube channel, so they're hosted there as well. But I encourage you to take a look at them. They're very quick and easy to watch, but they're jam-packed with information, things that I've mentioned tonight and things that I don't have time to cover. So also we're sending out emails. So if you're interested in viewing those videos and having them arrive in your inbox, and you haven't already, then please let me know, and I can put your email on that distribution list as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and open it up if anyone has any questions. Hopefully I didn't take too long.
Anybody have any questions up here, council, for Alex? Another very informative presentation. Anybody in the audience here at Town Hall or on Zoom have any questions for Alex? See any hands raised either place. So thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
That was great. Thanks. Appreciate it. That takes us to item number 12, annual presentation, the third presentation in a row from Uncompahgre Watershed Partnership regarding programs, projects, and initiatives, and a request for funding. Tanya, welcome.
Hi there. I hate to be after all these presentations, but I think mine's short and sweet. We'll see.
Good.
I brought more copies of the watershed guide if anybody hasn't gotten one yet. I think most of the council was on last time I came, but that's the guide that we created last year with the grant from the Ridgway County Community Fund, and it has a map of the watershed questions, really good information. I'm also wearing my Riverfest shirt this year. It was August 28th, and it was really fun and a bright shirts this time. I've had a great time. I'll be telling you a little bit about that. So thanks for hearing my request. Next slide is just about us. Once again, I always like to say a little bit about who we are in case there's new people on the board. We were created in 2007 and incorporated in 2013. And we are your watershed group to help raise awareness about watershed issues, as well as do on-the-ground work to help our watershed, the water resources improve or maintain at least how they are. So we have 5 goals: and monitoring and improving water quality, improving and maintaining riverine ecosystem function, which it's basically doing any kinds of activities to help. Probably one example is collaborating with the town right now for your river characterization study of Rollins Park in that area. Our Ashley Bembenek, who's our technical consultant, she is helping more than me on that. And just working with your consultants and just kind of giving our expertise about what we know of the watershed to help that study go well, so that it'll result in some good changes, if any, for the river. Improve seasonal low flows and water supply. We don't do tons of that, but we are definitely working towards more conservation activities because that's a necessity these days. And we also do, for instance, we're in the process with the in-stream flow that the Colorado Water Conservation Board is requesting in Cow Creek. We are supporting that, thinking that it's a good thing to keep those fish. That I wish I had the really cool fish pictures that I saw at their presentation. There's a sculpin. I don't know if you've ever seen a sculpin, but it looks like a dinosaur. It's really the coolest fish. And if we lose that, I'll be so sad. We promote awareness of watershed science and conditions to various stakeholders. I'll be telling you more about that. And we provide scientific guidance for supporting sustainable recreation opportunities. And John and Russ were on a field trip with us this spring, our new recreation committee. And we're just kind of getting that going now. We've always
supported the idea of sustainable recreation, but now we actually have volunteers and soon to be a staff member working on that. So next, our board members, in case you care, Telluride Foundation and other grants always ask us who's on our board. So letting me know who are on our board. Dennis Murphy and Amanda Clements actually are from Montrose. So it's kind of funny, our top two board members there, but they really provide good perspective from what's going on over there in that area of the river. And Dennis is on the planning commission over there, so he has good contacts for us, and he's been on a lot of nonprofits. He's an active TU member. Amanda is a watershed educator, so she's really great with our education stuff. And most of the other names are probably recognized from our area. And it's a very active board that volunteers a lot. The Riverfest was one example. I mean, a lot of the board members were there for 12 hours. So that was really helpful. So next. So even though this is a budget request for 2022 that I'm here to give you or to ask you for, that request is in a letter that was in your board packet, your council packet. So you can look at that later and I'll mention it at the end. But I figure rather than talking about that, I'll tell you how the funding went from last year. So you'll know how we use the funds since it's very similar for this year. You can see. So this was this year's Riverfest actually. And we had 2 entries in the Junk of the Young. Jim Corson had an incredible cross-country ski and insulation craft that was, he did a lot of paddling with his arms. And we had Xander and his brother were on the other junk, and they were the ones who won actually. And Xander won all 3 races at the Riverfest this year. He's an 11-year-old. And he won the Junk of the Young, he won our inflatables bonanza. He also won the rubber ducky race, and that does not take talent. Unless he just picked that right duck that was going to be. And we like poured the ducks from like one pail to the next to garbage bags in order to get them up to the bridge to toss them into the water. So it was totally a gamble on that one. But for this year's River Festival, yes, so each year the town has been giving us $1,000. So that's our top level is $2,500, and double RL's been doing that level for us. And the town's been doing the $1,000 level. That helps us get the River Fest going, but actually half of the Riverfest, half the funds paid for the Riverfest operation for it to go, and the other half that we earn end up going to our general operations throughout the year. So it's also an important fundraiser for us. And we this year we did on August 28th, because back in March when we were making the decision, we were worried about COVID June and about vaccinations. However, the end of June, which is when Riverfest normally is, probably would have been a great time to have it this year. But we, can't change course in the middle. So we continued to have it on August 28th. The other idea, even though it was low flows, is 2018, the flows were really low as well, even in June. And so we thought, we'll just try that again. The really cool thing about low flows is we don't worry about kids playing around the river. They can get in as far as they want almost, especially at the park there. So that's a fun part about doing it then. The only bummer is because it was a different date than usual. I think that made attendance a little bit lower, and then also because the Delta variant is coming back, some people were worried. So sponsorship actually was really wonderful. The community, last year we canceled the festival, and so this year the community really came out of the business community and other nonprofits to support us, and so that was really great. And also people really liked buying the rubber duckies this year. That's really popular. So the next one, feedback about the festival, even though it wasn't super crowded, people just loved it. So many people said they're going to come back next year. The vendors want to come back next year. The racers want to come back next year. BLM is going to create their own Junk of the Young, and it's going to something called public land trash or something like that. So I can't wait to see that one. Let's see, we unveiled our new watershed displays. These displays that are pictured here, they're actually like 7 feet high and 3 feet wide. And they have all kinds of really good information about water ecology and water science and water rights and water users and maps of the watershed. So, and down at the bottom, I think I have this on another slide. We actually thank the CDPHE, Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, for funding it, but also Ridgway, because you've been funding the watershed education. We thank you as well. So you're on those banners as well. And we'll be using those at the Ridgway schools, at the natural resource festivals, all over the place to educate people. And then let's see, and then next slide. So we, as a sponsor of the festival, you just, Ridgway gets their logo on posters and banners and such. Not sure if that, I'm sure that's not the reason why you're why you're doing it, but on our website and all over the place, we did thank the town of Ridgway for supporting us. So item number 2, last year we asked for $1,000 combining water quality study and water educational activities. As I've discussed in the past, our River Watch volunteers go out there and they sample. They have been sampling monthly at 5 different sites or 6 different sites, but now this summer they're also sampling at Blue Lakes, and they're also sampling up by Imogene and a couple other places, Commodore Gulch, and all of that. The Blue Lakes one is to help the U.S. Forest Service with that study of the recreational impact. The ones up the pass are to help us when the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment comes in 2 more years, and they pushed it back to 2023 is when they're going to characterize the upper watershed to decide which streams are the most impaired, so which should be addressed the most. So we're helping with that. And even though those are volunteers, there's other costs to that. Of course, me trying to get the volunteers together and the shipping of materials and just the collaboration that we need to do to talk to the different agencies. Let's see, and then about all of our education stuff all over, and you can read that on the slide. So next slide. And then water quality and watershed education. So this year, I think most of you know, and a couple of you came out to my Meet Your Watershed events. And once again, that was mainly funded by the Department of Public Health. But it ended up expanding a little bit more than I expected because it was so fun to reach out to all these agencies. We had people from USGS, from Trout Unlimited, from let's see, that was Trout Unlimited, a different sector as well, from the Department of Reclamation, Mining and Safety, from the Bureau of Reclamation, from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We invited representatives from all of those to come to the parks, to Dennis Weaver Park to meet with groups, and we had anywhere between 15 and 20 or so people who come and talk with those representatives and learn a lot about our watershed, and it turned out really successfully. People who engaged in the conversation seemed to really get a lot out of it. Next, mine remediation projects, $1,000. So that the money from the town just helps support our technical consultant to keep on being involved in those projects. We get the bigger funding because, of course, those cost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars from other sources. In this case, Governor Basin Project, we're getting it from the NRD funds, from the consent decree, from the Idorado cleanup that was required. And so that's how that's being funded, also with some help from the Silver Lines. And that is the project that we've been trying to work on for the last since 2018. As most of these projects do, it extends a little bit longer depending on weather changing things or government agencies changing their staff, or just the finding new issues with the land ownership and having to deal with that. So hopefully next year we'll be on the ground finally and get that one finished. So just the fact that the town gives us money to help us keep on going on that process is very helpful. Governor Basin, the reason it's important is it's really close to the top of the watershed there. So, impacts there will filter all the way down. So the last slide. So for 2022, we're hoping you can fund the Riverfest again. We usually have between $5,000 and $7,000 funders of that. So, you're not the only one we're asking. You're one of the important ones. And then item 2, and actually this year, Uray County had also come in as a sponsor for one of the first times. So it's exciting because more people are seeing the value of it. Watershed education. And the only change here is last year we put watershed education and water quality together in item 2. This year I moved water quality down to mine remediation because I just think, especially since we've gotten so far in the Governor Basin project, we won't need as much money for that. So helping with water quality together with that will be good. And watershed education, now that we have those banners created, we can go more places, do more things with them. And it'd be great to have your support to get that education out in the community. That is my presentation to you.
Thanks, Tanya. That was great. Again, anybody on council have questions for Tanya? Another awesome presentation.
I know, well, we had a vote beforehand and the men wanted to be dark blue shirt. and boys didn't want this color. So. But you know, if you like shirts, short sleeves like women, then you could wear it just fine. We got the V-necks this year.
Little cap sleeve. Hey, Tanya, can I grab one of those brochures there?
Yeah.
Anybody in the audience here or on Zoom have any questions for Tanya? Awesome.
Was I?
Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Anybody else? Did you get one before I go?
Thanks, Tanya.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to item number 13 under public hearings. This is a public hearing, so we've got to follow the state statutes on that. I will have staff, have town manager give a report on this item, and then I'll open it up for public comment, and then we'll have to close that and we'll deliberate. This is item number 13, extension request to meet conditions of approval of preliminary plat. The property at southeast corner of Sherman Street, Highway 62 and Railroad Street, addressed TBD, Railroad Street, zone historic business, applicant owner, Ridgway Co-housing LLC. Question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So council's asked to consider a 2-year extension, 24-month extension request from Ridgway Co-housing on their preliminary plat approval. So they have an additional 2 years to meet the conditions assigned with that preliminary plat approval from back in 2019. The current expiration date is October 9th of this year for a variety of reasons, including the pandemic, an increase in construction costs, issues getting through CDOT's stormwater requirements. I can let the applicant talk to that in more detail. They're requesting this extension to the preliminary plat approval. The code does allow for an extension of preliminary plat approval for good cause and allows the town council to grant additional time to meet conditions. With that, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you. I do believe we have some representatives from Ridgway Co-housing here to talk on their behalf. And again, this is a public hearing.
Great, thanks, Preston. So yeah, first off, I'll give you guys an opportunity to add anything to what Preston said, if you'd like. If you don't need to, we can go right to public comment. Give you an opportunity to speak if you like. You good? Okay, we've got a very complete application here, including staff report from the 2019 preliminary plat, so that's fine. Let's see. First, I'm going to ask if council has any questions for either the applicant or staff. Proposal.
I guess I'm just curious, why do we anticipate another 2 years? Your extension, you're requesting a 2-year extension?
You know, it's really, it's a degree of safety, so we're not coming back in here a year, 18 months from now. You know, CDOT and marketing and kind of changing member structure proved to be many months and more in the making. So I think that's the period of time where we're anticipating not coming back for another extension and getting it done.
What percentage of members do you have now of your total spaces?
We have
10 out of what, 3?
I might add that with the 30% increase in construction costs, which is a killer this year. And so we have regrouped with Austin, a couple of members from this. Just would still like to be here.
over the increase in price. And surprisingly, in about 6 months, what I observed, and I know others go like group hands as well, is that when we present those higher pound price numbers, and, you know, these are people from other areas, generally speaking, from range, and they're not surprised. In other words, this increase in house price has already been absorbed, built in to some extent. And so we're encouraged by that we can maintain our quality, maintain the standards and the program we have laid out at an increased cost.
Is your construction predicated on 100% membership, or what's your critical mass to get started?
So, he's asking what percentage, and I think it's around 70.
I know it's we can get started probably with about half.
So you're approaching that soon then, I guess.
We're certainly hoping that that's true. We're working very hard on that.
Are most of the, you said most of the members are from out of the area? Is that a focus or just a coincidence?
Both.
We've got them from here in the area, we've got them from the Front Range, and then we've got several scattered around the country.
Okay, anything else up here? All right, with that, I will open up the public comment section for anyone either here in town hall or on Zoom to ask or to make comment. You can't, because of the way the public hearing process works, I apologize. There's no direct interplay with the applicant, but people can raise comments, questions, concerns. So I'll open that up for public comment. Here in the room or on Zoom, I'm not seeing any hands. Going once, going twice. All right, looks like we're good there. So I'm going to close the public hearing and the public comment, I mean, and bring it back up here for us to deliberate. I guess I would start out by saying I don't, based on all the things mentioned in their letter that Don wrote, and the increase in construction costs and just the numerous challenges that they've had in the last 18 months and who knows how long. Hopefully the construction material costs are going to start coming down, but I don't have a problem with the 2-year extension. I'd certainly like to see them be successful, and I'm assuming that if things go positively, they certainly have every reason or every right to come in before the 24 months is over. They just have 24 months to accomplish it. So if they come in sooner, there's no penalty or anything like that. So I don't know.
As our staff report highlights, town council can authorize an extension for good cause shown, such as adverse market conditions. A global pandemic plus a giant crunch on materials would seem like an adverse market condition.
Without question.
I also don't have a problem with this at all. Is 2 years a long time? Do we have projects historically in town that kind of?
Well, we've had, I'll use the example of it's relevant, but the phase 2 of the industrial park has come back for a 2-year extension 2 or 3 or 4 times.
For the past 10 years.
We
So,
also,
it's not unusual.
we've given a lot of short extensions to other projects, and then, so, you know, this is kind of the final one. We originally had given 2 years for this project because there was some Army Corps of Engineers pieces I remember shaping like, this is a little bit higher level. We don't have a lot of control.
I remember those discussions.
Yeah, so for a first extension to come back and ask for 2 years versus us having this discussion every 6 months or for the next 2 years. You know, if we're back here in 2 years, then it may be a sterner conversation,
But just to reiterate, I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
I don't personally have a problem with this at all. Thanks for the education. It's better.
yeah. I think the biggest thing is we do want to see projects like this succeed. This is a motivated group of community members, and yes, there's people coming in from out of the community, but I have heard rumors that it's town's fault that the project isn't going forward, and that's not the case.
We gotta love the rumor mill. Yep.
I've also heard rumors that there's gonna be lots of energy efficiency and possibly solar on each unit.
Did you make the rumor?
He's announcing it right
Anyone else? Well, I think given all the things we've discussed, the market conditions and challenges, and I also would add again that this isn't your typical developer trying to do this project. This is a bunch of consortium of individuals in town who'd like to create something really cool. And it's not for profit, it's for everybody. I mean, it's not that it's nonprofit, but it's a collaborative effort rather than a developer. So I think that counts for something in my opinion. And I don't think a 2-year extension is undue. Anyone else?
We had some sort of agreement with potentially acquiring some of the land on the north end of this, didn't we? Some.
Well, yeah, this, you mean back to the trying to align Railroad Street. And I think that if I remember correctly, the last time we discussed this, it was that the applicant, the co-housing group were like, didn't want to have to deal with it. So I actually don't know where it's at right now, but there is going to be a possibility still, I believe, if you look at the attachment, attachment 2 and the details of the easement and road highlights that there could be an alignment there. But I think, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Preston, I think we would have to pay fair market value for a portion of the land in order to have the street put in where we might want.
I think that's right. And staff, we haven't had any appraisals done. We actually talked about this a couple of months ago. Those CDOT access permits ended up lapsing. I'm looking at Joanne. I don't remember when. It was a couple of months ago, I believe. And we got direction from council ultimately to have some conversations with CDOT about the, I'm trying to think of the word, roundabout. Yeah. At Highway Sherman Street there. So just trying to be concise in the remarks. That was the direction we heard a couple months ago in relation to that. We never moved forward with any appraisals of that right away or the property.
Any updates from CDOT on that, or is that just we've got it reinitiated?
Yeah, we got it's on the list, and yeah, no movement at this point.
Okay.
And I will note that, the preliminary plat has already previously been approved. So I think just for the purpose of tonight's discussion in the public hearing, probably should bifurcate those issues a little bit. Certainly it can be kind of direction to staff, but it's by no way a condition with respect to this extension.
Thanks, Paul. All right, any other discussion or someone want to make a motion?
I move to approve an extension for Ridgway co-housing preliminary plat for a period of 2 years with the same conditions assigned as the October 9th, 2019 approval, and allow up to 2 years to meet those conditions.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Council Beck,
Aye.
Worley,
Aye.
Tremblay,
Aye.
Lakin, Skylar,
Aye.
and Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
There you go. Thanks, everybody. That's it for that item. The next is another public hearing, item number 14, adoption of ordinance number 06-2021, enacting a new chapter 7-7 of the Ridgway Municipal Code titled Landscape Regulations, and amending chapter 6-1 Building Regulations, chapter 6-6 Residential Design Standards, chapter 7-3 Zoning Regs, and chapter 7-4 Subdivision Regulations. I guess TJ, you're gonna kick this off for us?
Katie, I believe.
It's actually going to be me, yeah. And sorry for the light if anyone's looking at the video. So tonight we're bringing forward an ordinance to update the landscape regulation in the Ridgway Municipal Code. This is the second reading of the ordinance. Council actually recommended approval of the code updates at last month's hearing on August 11th. No outstanding questions or issues were left to address after this meeting, and no public comments have been received since that meeting. So the landscape regulation updates have been a priority for the town for the last few years. A lot of research and evaluation was done by the town's previous planner, and we were able to pick up where she left off in drafting new code regulations to address some of the much needed updates. The updates center around some of the desired changes expressed by council, planning commission, and community members. These updates allow a property owner more flexibility in terms of landscaping options. They address water conservation concerns, which means that the standards are less stringent and are focused on building off the native vegetation. And the regulations are now consolidated into one chapter within the code for ease of understanding for property owners and design professionals. This update, these efforts were taken as a comprehensive approach in addressing landscape regulation updates, which means that it will require updating both the municipal code and the commercial design guidelines. And tonight we're recommending that town council adopt the ordinance as presented in the public hearing to update the landscape regulations in the Ridgway Municipal Code, and motion to set the next hearing to adopt the resolution that will update the commercial design guidelines. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. As she said, it's this is the second reading. It was introduced last month. We've all had lots of time to read this very complicated and comprehensive regulation update. And so I don't imagine we need a lot of discussion, but I will give council opportunity to ask any questions of staff or the planners. We still have them.
I have one question. I know I'm supportive of this entire thing. I have one question we brought up during the planning commission, and that was the restriction of seeding cottonwoods. And I know that we had heard from CSU representative, previously that although those were kind of nasty as far as having the seeds, that the non-bearing, cotton-bearing cottonwoods had potential higher allergen issues. And so I was curious what the driving factor on retaining that restriction was.
So this is in relation to the under the prohibited species, the cottonwoods that bear cotton populace.
Correct.
So we did check in with the arborist, the town arborist, and he didn't have any concerns about this one specifically. But it wasn't clarified whether it should be removed from the prohibited list.
It was an interesting discussion, if I remember correctly. The CSU extension agent was saying that they've discovered in some communities that eliminating the cottonwoods with cotton was exacerbating the allergy potential in the communities where they were doing that. I guess my only point would be that Ridgway, with its having been around a long time and having quite a few cotton-bearing cottonwoods existing in town and reseeding themselves all over town, I'm not sure we're going to have that issue. I think it might be more of an issue in a community that's new and is right out of the gate restricting the cotton-bearing cottonwoods. So I think that we're probably safe leaving that prohibition in there. I'm open to other opinions, of course.
I would just want to make sure that if somebody wanted to bring in cottonwoods, that we weren't creating issues by having them bring in the non-cotton bearing.
Cottonwoods are also not going to be, with our current water rate structure and water issues, a great choice. So, I mean,
Although they will always remain.
They'll remain around.
One of the few trees that will grow here.
Yeah.
It's native to the area.
Actually, I don't know that it's native. The aspens are native, the cottonwoods may have been introduced. I don't know. You have to
Well,
research.
I don't mean to slow you down. This is a good document. I'm ready to go forward with it. I just wanted to follow up on that and understand.
I appreciate you bringing that up. I think it's one of those things that we can always revisit if it becomes an issue down the road. I don't feel the need to make an edit
Belabor it anymore.
Unless somebody else does.
Yeah, I share just a little bit of concern. I mean, maybe if they are native and it's just one of those, if we're gonna revisit later, it's gonna be significant push on someone's side to have that revisited. It's just one more kind of step. But good with it at this point.
Really like the fact that you separated in new chapter 7. When I was building that, would be really nice to have. So I commend all the hard work that went into this thought, especially the structure and some of the specific changes.
It does look like there are some cottonwood species that are native to Colorado. I haven't done a quick Google search.
I would suggest, rather than get bogged down in this detail that's been in as it went through planning commission in our first reading. If it winds up being a problem and we need to revisit and revise this piece, let's do that. But let's honor the fact that it's been through the public process for months and months at this point, and roll with it as written would be my suggestion.
I'm fine with that.
Works for me.
Any other comments or questions about any of it from council? And I'll open it up for public comment. Anybody? Don't have anybody left in the room here. Anybody on Zoom have any questions or comments about this ordinance? Not seeing any, so
I'll move to approve an emergency ordinance, Town of Ridgway, Colorado, adopting certain additions and amendments to Chapter 7, Planning and Zoning, of the Ridgway Municipal Code.
All right, motion made and seconded right after I close public comment. Any other discussion? All in favor? Sorry, roll call vote, please. Old habits die hard.
Counselor Beck,
Aye.
Farrell,
Aye.
Brambley,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
and Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody. That was a long process. Thank you, TJ and Katie, particularly Katie, for all your hard work on this. Job well done, and I feel good about it.
Thank you very much.
Update to our landscape regulations, cleaning up of it.
I have a quick question. As material as this is to people who are building now or will be applying for permits, is this going to be advertised in any way, shape, or form? It just becomes quietly part of the new code. Because I know there's a lot of people interested in some of these changes.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we could have staff make sure that it gets out on our social media, our website, that it has been adopted. I know we already talked about how we need to. People were pleased with the graphics, the sort of example pieces at the end, and while those aren't technically part of the ordinance, we talked about putting them in a form where they could be included in the building permit packet that anybody gets from them coming into town hall to start the process. So I think just have staff implement that.
Yeah, we can put it out to our channels. That's a good point. We have gotten a lot of phone calls from folks interested in this. Karen, did you get like 1 or 2 today? Just alone. So yeah, you're right. There's definitely some interest. So we'll make sure those folks are aware of this change 30 days from now, technically.
All right, well, thanks, everybody. That's a big one to get checked off our list, so thank you. And that concludes the public hearings for tonight's meeting. We now move to policy matters. I'm not sure why that says continue. But, oh, is there a policy?
We
matter?
did the MOU.
All right, gotcha, thank you. I was trying to figure that out. So we're moving on to item number 15. This is a emergency ordinance number 07-2021, adopting certain additional amendments to additions and amendments, I think is what that should say, to Chapter 7 Planning and Zoning of the Ridgway Municipal Code. Oh.
Great, thank you, Mayor Clark. We have had some great support from town staff with respect to TJ and Katie and Preston and Joanne and frankly myself, trying to address all the recent development applications and related kind of planning issues that have been presented to the town during these times. That being said, there are certain provisions in the code that create a reasonable expectation for an applicant to feel like once there is a submittal, they could be scheduled within 30 days of the next planning commission meeting. An effort to take a step back and make sure that we've had the opportunity at the staff level to thoroughly review and vet these materials and applications. This proposed emergency ordinance is put forth, which allows for staff 30 days, a 30-day window to review any application to determine whether or not it's complete. And then if it's reviewed at the staff level, if it's reviewed at the planning commission level, if it's reviewed at the council level, once the application itself is deemed complete, it can proceed. But it just builds staff a little bit more time. So that's what we're looking for with this emergency ordinance.
Quick point, I actually haven't read the wrong thing. So I read the approval for the emergency ordinance on landscaping.
I think you cited the correct.
You said emergency, but then you said the right thing.
Yeah. Okay, all right, if that's still okay,
I believe you did.
okay.
Sorry. All right, so does anyone have any questions for Bo or staff, Preston, about the reason for this and why it's being brought to us as an emergency? I think it makes a ton of sense given the pressures we're under right now. And it's going to make for, the most important thing to me is it's going to make for a much better process where in the past, because of, the tight timeline, sometimes we vet things, have to go back to Joanne or some other review process. And I think this could actually end up taking less time over the entire process to complete an application than has sometimes happened in the past because of things being rushed at the front end. So I think this makes good sense. But
Yeah, I think that's a great point there, and I would actually echo that. And I think the other thing it does, it sets more of a expectation for the applicant in terms of what the time frame would be in terms of, okay, I can schedule, the staff will get back to me within 30 days saying, hey, look, this is complete or this is deficient in these areas. And one sets the dialogue and two sets an expectation. And one other person that I didn't mention was Karen and the great job that she's been doing in terms of processing the intakes.
thanks for mentioning that. We appreciate all of our staff's effort, and Karen, we know you do a lot to keep things moving too. So it's a good point. Any other questions or comments from council? Any comments or questions in the audience? On Zoom, since there's nobody here, but Aaron, you got any questions? I'm not seeing any, so.
I move to approve emergency ordinance 07-2021 2021. An emergency ordinance of the town of Ridgway adopting certain additions and amendments to chapter 7 planning and zoning of Ridgway Municipal Code.
Second. All right, motion made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Yes. Council Beck,
Aye.
Corelli,
Aye.
Tremblay,
Aye.
Lakin. Aye. Skylar,
Aye.
and Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. Great, thanks, everybody. I think this is gonna really help with these busy times we've got in front of us right now. So, thanks, John. That takes us to item number 16, which is has my name on it. This is an exciting thing that I think you've probably all heard about by now. The Ridgway Space to Create celebration has been scheduled for September 23rd, 2 weeks from tomorrow. And we would like to have the council approve the closing of Clinton Street between North Laura and Cora Street from 6 to 9 p.m. on that date, in order for us to set up a celebration, have a little music, we're planning all sorts of fun, appropriately creative aspects to the celebration. And I'm not sure yet whether we'll need the whole block of Clinton closed or whether just half the block, but figured we'd ask for the whole block so that we decide that's we can go forward with that. So that's what this item is about. Anybody have any questions or?
Oh, thanks for replanning the date to be in the evening.
Yeah. Well, this is the original, what that's referring to, the original date was, I think, the 9th, I think it was tomorrow. And it was going to be around lunchtime to take advantage of the construction being shut down for that time. And it was going to be a much more informal sort of initial celebration with just us and a few key stakeholders. This one next 2 weeks from tomorrow will include some of the state stakeholders, Margaret Hunt from Colorado Creative Industries, Chantal Unplug from Department of Local Government within DOLA. I think maybe even Rick Garcia from DOLA might be here, possibly even the governor. Either I doubt if he's able to attend it in person, but he might be able to attend virtually. And we might even have some good news about some gap funding by then too. So this is a much more kind of big deal and better celebration, more complete celebration. Even though the process started construction earlier this summer, it's great to actually be able to finally have a celebration. So that's what it's all about. Awesome. Anybody in the audience on Zoom has any questions? Get a motion to approve the closure of the street.
Then we approve the special event permit for the closure of Clinton Street for the Ridgway Space to Create celebration.
Great, thank you for that. Motion made and seconded. The roll call vote.
Councilor Beck,
Aye.
Corelli,
Aye.
Tremblay,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
and Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye. Great, thanks everybody. Looking forward to it. It would give, just occurring to me now that if any of you want to make any sort of comments, you can speak at the event, let me know. I'm scheduled to speak. We've got a few other key stakeholders that are going to be speaking. But if anybody would like to speak, let me know. That brings us to item number 17, review and ratification of letter of support for the old Ridgway Firehouse project. I believe this is a ratification of the letter that we had to draft in time for submittal. Was it last week, Preston?
I believe it was last week. So if I may, so Patrick O'Leary, the developer for the Ridgway Firehouse project, he was in late August, so maybe 2 weeks ago, requested a letter of support from the town to accompany their funding application to the Colorado Community Revitalization Grant Program through OEDIT and CCI. Apparently, letter of support from the municipality is mandatory to include with an application. So the letter before you that was signed by Mayor Clark was provided to them last week. They were on a tight time frame to submit the application. I think it was Friday, September 3rd. So now the letter is subject to council ratification.
And just to add that this is a big deal because Patrick had applied for his project as a preliminary form for this funding, and they gave a positive thumbs up to apply for the final round along with the space great projects application. So it's interesting, two projects in town are being considered for those funds at the state level. So I think that's really actually pretty exciting. And as the letter points out, it sort of bookends our historic Main Street, and it's the continued revitalization that's going on downtown. So any other comments or questions on this item? Make a motion.
Move we approve the letter of support for Fire LLC's application to the community revitalization grant.
Second. Great, thank you. Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Beck,
Aye.
Twirly,
Aye.
Brambley,
Aye.
Lakin,
Aye.
Skylar,
Aye.
and Mayor Pro Tem Meyer.
Aye.
And who seconded them?
Terry. Thanks, Kevin. All right, thanks, everybody. That takes care of item number 17. Item number 18 is has my name on it, and this is one that hopefully you've all had a chance to review the Town of Netherlands resolution that came across my email desk a couple of weeks ago, and just really sparked me as something that makes a lot of sense. I mean, particularly in as you read in that resolution, and a number of other governments, entire nations around the globe have done similar things, mostly in terms of watersheds. And I think our watershed, I've always said it's how lucky are we as people, as human beings, to live in a community where our watershed is immediately above us. There's no one else in front of us between us and where the water comes from, right out of the mountain. So we have an incredibly comprehensive kind of watershed protection ordinance that I worked on with a bunch of people close to 10 years ago now. But I think, especially in light of things like the Citizens United case that came before the Supreme Court that said corporations are people. I mean, corporations can be people and have legal rights to standing in court cases. I think the natural world and Mother Nature should have that same standing. So I think basically what we're asking for here is, or what I'm asking for, I guess I would say, is nod of agreement that we could take forward, and Preston and I could draft a similar resolution for us to approve at our next meeting based on this and customized for Ridgway. So
Is this mostly symbolic, or does it have any legal?
I believe the Netherlands one is not, what's the term? Well, it's,
So I think that's a pretty interesting question, to be honest with you. I think it's a good question. In terms of enforcement by the town, I would say it's somewhat symbolic. Now, whether or not that concept ties into future comprehensive plans or things of that nature where we recognize that the initiative has been passed, it could be something that sets the groundwork. It could also be something that in the event that the town was, in the event that there's litigation in the future and the town was a party to that, they could say, hey, look, this is something that's important in terms of hard to describe it, but yeah, nature, yeah.
Does it subject us to any potential legal liability, which would cause litigation costs?
I don't see
Against us
that.
for doing this?
Yeah.
No,
I
I
don't
don't.
want to challenge it.
The term I was looking for in Netherlands, this is a non-binding resolution.
The Netherlands one creates, it looks like some burden on the town itself. It's more like they will prepare a written report for the community and they
Right.
will, like, it wasn't.
I think that the most important thing in this example is section 6 at the bottom, call for state level support for rights of creeks and watersheds. And I think that is it. To me, that's kind of the primary. Yes, there's other things that it's saying the town will do to make sure we're taking positive steps to protect our watershed, but also actively petition our state reps to actually create some legal foundation for support of protecting our creeks and watersheds.
This makes me think of our presentation we had last month about Putnam Creek. And it, just as we followed through with things and we've heard about issues with flooding, like if we're gonna do something like this, it's gonna be really imperative on us and on staff to follow up on concerns like that. Or else this is a super, super empty gesture.
And on a lighter note, it puts us in the ring with metal and goods, frozen dead guy.
True that. Yeah, I mean, I think it goes without saying that there are always going to be issues with our creeks and watersheds that require us to, I mean, all I can say in response to your comments, Beth, that as long as I've been here, we've been trying to figure out a solution to the Dallas Creek, County Road 5, Cotton Creek blowout there that blows out anytime there's a huge rain. It's like, it's time that the county, the town, the Dallas Creek Water Company, and neighboring property owners, mainly house buildings, and I'm not sure who the property owners on the other side of the road, but sit down and actually work out a way for us to all share in the cost of creating a real structure there. It's an adequate size culvert diversion structure that can handle these kind of water events. And it's going to cost money, and that's always what keeps these things from happening. But there's so much money in the pipeline right now for all sorts of projects. I think it's an ideal time to try and get some grant money to help do it, and everybody, there's always matching funds required as well. So
I guess all I'm saying, and I will support a resolution if we bring it in front of us. We can make a non-binding resolution, or we can put staff time into solving some of the problems around our creeks and watersheds and that. And I know it is busy in town hall, and I know that staff has a limited capacity. And so if we do this, all I'm saying is that does really commit us to, it is time to do that then. That's all I'm saying. I will happily support this resolution if that's what we want to go ahead and do, but.
Are there other existing kind of paths to do that other than kind of going forward with this sort of, is there a way to, request that, additional protections on the watershed other than this route?
well, I mean, obviously, yeah, there are all sorts of other options. And, I think getting back to the initial question, this is somewhat symbolic. It certainly is, if we follow the same template that Netherlands did, it would be a non-binding resolution, just stating our belief that just like Citizens United says that corporations are people, we're saying that the other side of the coin is that Mother Nature is a person that has legal rights and should be considered when there are questions about development that, what it boils down to from what I've read is that there are too many cases where there's potential legal hullabaloo about a development proposal. And the courts say that people who are opposed to it don't have standing because they're not directly affected, because they don't own property right there. And this creates a scenario where there's actually some rights to the land and the water itself that creates standing, that avoids those kind of issues. It's complicated, it's esoteric. I get all that, but you know, I just think in today's litigious society, it's important to recognize both sides. So
it's consistent with our tagline. You know, in some respects.
It's totally consistent with our master plan. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
well, you know, that again, all I think we're asking for tonight, I'll say all I'm asking for tonight is the thumbs up to sit down and draft something that is particularly Ridgway with Preston's help and bring it back to you next month.
I'm good with that.
I don't think we need a motion for that.
No, just direction and you brought back to the council.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. That brings us to the end of our formal agenda, or items of direct consideration. Takes us to written reports. First of which is the town manager's report. Preston, you want to highlight some things for us?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So sorry it took me so long to get this out. Got it out this morning. Doubt many of you had a chance to put an eye to the whole thing. I do know some of you sipped of the joke, but it is what it is. Youth Advisory Council applications are due October 1st, I think. So that'll be exciting to see how many we get. We'll do interviews and appointments at the next at your next meeting. I'll highlight some other stuff, but
I would just, before you go on, just say, if any of you know any youth in town that you think would be a good candidate, please make sure they know about this. And,
is there a grade limit?
Just high school.
Just high school?
sophomore through senior, there's some eligibility criteria. You can check out the application, it's all on there.
Was there a term limiting the previous students that may still be?
There's at least one that's
Anna Marchi is, yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Yeah, she was a junior last year, she'll be a senior.
Does she roll, does her term extend or shit?
yeah, her choice. Actually, that's
I don't know that it's written in a way that it turns over, but you know,
I'm sure she'll apply.
There's some benefit to continuity.
Yeah.
But if you do know somebody, they're high school kids, invite them directly. Be like, you would be really good. Just saying.
Yeah, you can't be wishy-washy about it. We gotta kind of-
I had some pretty
I've already,
serious conversations with people.
I've already put the pressure on myself. So
it'll be really interesting this year. You know, last year we didn't visit with them in person ever, and so we should be able. Well, we'll see what the cross your fingers, but we should be able to get them guys like this do some really interesting things this year. So the next one I want to highlight and actually ask you all a question. We have the Ridgway Business After Hours at the Visitor Center and Heritage Park event next Tuesday. Do any of you have a handle on whether or not you can attend that event? I ask because if more than 3 of you plan to attend, would like to publicly post it.
I'd like to attend.
You would?
Terry and I at least.
Okay.
I will not be here. Go ahead.
We'll post it. We'll
Yeah.
post it.
Won't you skip this?
There's nothing good.
This one isn't in the report, but Joanne and Ron have made a ton of headway on the design for Amelia Street. A ton of work has gone into that. We're actually starting to, we haven't done it yet, but we're trying to figure out a path to outreach to some property owners who may or may not be impacted based on the current iteration of the design. And there'll be future iterations, I'm sure, but we definitely want to sit down and talk with some of these property owners before the design is actually, I guess, unveiled and presented to you all. I bring that up because I anticipate it being a pretty lengthy presentation and discussion by Joanne and Ron. And we can go about it a couple different ways. Putting it as a standard work session policy matter item on the October council meeting agenda. I think it could be an hour, 15 minutes long. It makes for a longer council meeting evening. We could set up a standalone workshop evening. October is already it's a month chock full of meetings already, given the budget schedule. So just wanted to see what your appetite is for talking about the design of the street.
Adding an hour and a half after working all day is real hard. I'd rather come in another day. Especially if we start at 6 when we do it, which gives us a little more time.
I would agree on
6:30 even.
your point about there being chock full of meetings already is well taken. I'd much rather do this in a meeting myself.
Any desire to look at calendars and figure out a date now? Or would you like me to just pick one?
We'll start.
Well, you could do it. You could do a doodle poll.
Yeah.
What was that?
Change it, pick one, we'll change it 5 times.
Well, that's why I said do a doodle poll.
We can do a doodle poll. We can certainly do that. And then that way Joanne and Rob can weigh in too.
Yeah, find a handful of dates or a few dates that work for them and work for you. And then even if we don't get all of this, hopefully we'll get a majority of this.
If you can re-record stuff so that can be made available, so at least we can be in on what was said.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, totally.
You might also include, if you think there's the key property owners along the other street that you want to know about this date, make sure the date works for them.
Yeah, totally.
Part of the intent is to try to talk to them in advance.
That sounds good.
And then we can share with them.
Okay.
Thanks. So I'll send a doodle poll. Lost my train of thought. Oh, so I didn't depict this in the report, but I'm going to pull up a graphic actually. So with the Ridgway Space to Create project, there's a series of alley closures that's going to be coming up that are to be expected given the stormwater system that's going to be put in. Pull up the image, sorry.
Is the one behind Joyce Buckham's place going to be on there?
No, it's
We got on both sides of the eyes.
So this is the Space to Create lot, obviously, and the stormwater materials I think are coming in soon, including detention box pipes and stuff. Most of it will be going in here, coming down the alley, trying to and then coming down to this intersection, Cora and Charles. So these series of closures associated with all that work being done. I bring this up because Stryker is very interested for a number of safety reasons in only closing Laura Street from Clinton Street to this alley, the half block. It's at this point it's at one lane, but they're pressing pretty hard to close it in its entirety for I think about 2.5 months. So a pretty significant amount of time. Before I reach back out to them and sit down and kind of talk it through, definitely wanted to see what you all thought about that.
Honestly, it's already one way. Like, it's not the end of the world. As someone who drives around it every single day.
Second, a further impact to the woman that spoke
Yes.
before. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
It's going to put more pressure on
It shouldn't put more pressure on Mary with big construction trucks. I'm upset that they're construction trucks driving on there. They should be coming in and out.
Well, no, they're basically what I've been seeing happening, John, is they're coming in and they're only going one way. It's like someone's backing in. They're not turning around anywhere on Laura Street. So Mary's getting impacted because they have to go back out somewhere.
Right.
So they're
come
coming
on
in
Mary
from
or they come
in
out.
on Laura is mostly what they do loaded. And then to leave, they have to go one or the other way on Charles. So again, I sit in my house and watch them do it.
Yeah, I do too.
It's,
Yeah, you're on the corner, Marion.
Yeah, and they've changed their routes pretty consistent, so they're running that route on the way out back to the highway every day. Most of the traffic from that is.
Well, I mean, part of this, despite people like Joyce being impacted and really upset about it, it's the price you pay for living in a downtown that's growing. It's unfortunate, but it's not like we can stop it completely.
Honestly, the standard is going to allow you to close the street without. You have to come in here and the town council has to approve the closure.
That makes sense. And I mean, I don't like the sound of 2.5 months, but if it's what they need to do it right, we'll have to deal with it.
Yeah, just one.
Are there houses cut off that don't?
the most annoying part about it, well, actually, for some of us will be actually pedestrian access. If the alley is closed and Florida Street is closed, that will actually be, for a lot of residents, the most frustrating part.
Shortcut to the boy.
Yeah, because I have an elderly dog.
It's true.
They'll be able to walk over.
Yeah, it's just, you walk differently. That's going to be for some people, honestly, the most actually annoying part.
Okay,
Well, it's supposing that for the couple of days it takes them to run the sewer. And I think the rest of it, I'm not seeing the sewer.
Yeah, I'm just relaying what I've been told, so, citing the standards, I hadn't even thought of that, Joanne, so I'll check with Ryan and Mark with Stryker to see when they actually want this to go into effect, because, our next meeting's not until October, so we won't even be able to put a road closure proposal for you to take action on until then, so.
And I mean, I don't know the details, and just made a comment that she sounds like she doesn't see the need for a 2.5 month closure. So, I mean, they're always going to ask for the things that are going to make it as easy as possible for them. I think we need to get them to balance that with the impacts on the neighbors. That's the right answer. I mean,
It does make me wonder though, like, if they come to us and say that, is it going to be a situation where then they can turn around and pay Flora Street if it's totally closed and they have the whole thing, which would actually minimize neighborhood disruption. So it depends on what their plan is for traffic to go with a full closure.
we'll have to have a discussion. I doubt even fully closing Warby's, they can turn around.
Great, well, I think we have the direction there to go back to them, thank you. You mentioned Cottonwood Creek earlier. Joanne, Mike Jenkins and I are actually going to be walking Cottonwood Creek tomorrow to kind of check out the status and see what we might be able to do at the staff level, certain segments. And then it's in the report, but the flood mapping, or I guess the floodplain issues that you've heard about the last meeting, maybe the last couple meetings, it's a bit of a moot point because the Colorado Conservation Board is working with FEMA on updating floodplain maps all throughout the state, and they're doing a really more comprehensive with Ridgway County, and with a series of data sets, resiliency meetings that are coming up. The next one's here in a couple of weeks. Actually, I don't think they've set the meeting yet, but they're looking to meet later this month. With the whole goal of updating floodplain maps here in Ridgway County. They won't become effective until 2023 though, but the work is being done, just FYI. And I think I'll call it there.
I have a question on the, skipped over the speeding issue on 62, which the question is not about the speeding issue, but it's related. Ever since John made me hypersensitive to the sound of Jake brakes, seems like I'm hearing more and more Jake brakes coming down 62. Also, I hear them coming down 550.
Yeah.
From where I am up on the hill there, I get a direct line of sound to 62. It's like, it seems like they've been increasing in frequency.
And this is, and I'm right there seeing it. as I sat there and waited to pull out tonight, there's, it seems like the 25-mile-an-hour sign next to my house means go faster. And there's literally people accelerating past that sign. I sat there and watched people hit 40, 42 and higher as I was waiting to pull out. And I know our town is doing as much as we can. One of the things I discussed with my wife is maybe reaching out to State Patrol and requesting more coverage there. I don't know what we've done, but it's pretty egregious. It's not getting better.
Does anybody else take joy in going 30 and then 25 coming down the hill, so everyone behind you is frustrated? Because I do.
Yeah.
We just need to take turns driving back and forth.
Well, I do my own traffic cessation to the school and turn right there, but it's pretty bad. And I know you guys are doing a lot, but it's not getting better. And something's gonna happen, someone's gonna hit somebody. There's gonna be dogs are one thing, humans are another.
That's why we're meeting with CDOT in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
They acknowledged via email that that it's an issue. I think that's surprised me that they said that to me in an email. So it's late next week. We'll meet with them to talk about speed mitigation tactics or devices.
Well, and back to the Jake Bird thing, Shane, I know last thing you need is something else on your plate, but seems like, it's almost like the noise ordinance is forced sign at the top of the street, the hill makes people put on their Jake Bird, like you say about the speed. I mean, anything you can do to try to remind all these trucks that come through.
We'll try to mitigate it.
I know it's tough.
See, that to answer your question about State Patrol, they have 7 troopers covering 5 counties.
Nice. Okay.
They're at an all-time low. And the other day, they had 2 troopers covering 5 counties, which is all the way to the state line to top of Monarch Pass to Highway 62 or 92, all the way to the top of Nuclear Pass.
That's not even 5 counties, that's 5 huge counties.
Yeah. And, they're maxed out. So getting them to participate in town here is probably not going to be.
Yeah, no, it was more of a brainstorming session.
Yeah.
Because I know you guys are doing what you can, so.
Kristen, I had a question about the URA Recreation and Conservation Alliance meeting. Is anybody else planning to go to that? Because I'm going to try to get down there. Is that something we need to notice then too?
Anybody else? Yeah, probably notice that as well. Thanks for remembering that.
Shane, I'm gonna retire a service vehicle anytime soon. You can park up there with a radar, fake radar. I've got 4. And they all have to be, swingable. And the last time that tactic was deployed, or there was some issues with dummy being stolen. Patrol car during COVID.
No, this is
been by. So,
well, we appreciate how hard you're working and just anything you can do to go by there. And I just think, even just random ticket now and then get the word out that we're enforcing. I don't know. You guys know your job. I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job, but
yeah, one of the newest or the tactics that I've been exploring is I think we're going to do kind of a blitz like the State Patrol does, where we put 2 officers in the area and pretty much 0 tolerance within the standards and see if we can't get the word out. So,
yeah, I wonder if
25 or 30 months.
Yeah, it seems like even some sort of PR campaign with San Miguel County that says, hey, if you live in San Miguel County, you drive through Ridgway regularly, slow down, or we're going to ticket you.
Well,
cooperate with them on.
In Glenwood is really run into this too. So they have got their 25 through town there. They had a big campaign, slow down in town. I don't know how successful that is, but maybe giving them a quick call to see what worked and not worked.
blitzes may not be the end of the world, like a
Yeah.
reputation for a
Right.
time, like, does a lot, you're like, you don't speed in that town.
Yeah, we used to have that reputation. Most certainly, it'd be worth, I think it'd be worth reinstating.
You know, but like, I think you said, like a concentrated effort, because you only have so many resources, but like, holy cow.
And then relocate to jail would be functional.
All right, what else? Anybody want to weigh in on the joke? Borderline politically incorrect.
I was wondering if someone was gonna say that, sorry.
You knew that it would be me, right? And Bo, what's your answer? You got some in your pocket?
No, I don't. So all I want to do is criticize.
Okay, then. All right, council committee reports. Anybody have committee reports? Not hearing any. All good? All good? Want to go home?
Sounds good.
All right, unless I hear opposition, I will declare us adjourned.
Have a great evening, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Preston.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Aaron.